Hello and good evening, everyone. You're watching Public Affairs, Public Access by Houston Media Source TV. I'm Roger Palomino with Houston Media Source, and I'm also filling in for Mr. Gene Preuss with C60 Inc. He's on assignment. So tonight, I'm honored to have my co-host, Mr. Ray Valdez. And also our other guests tonight are Lori Hernandez with Capital Campaign Consultant and Mr. Mario Salinas with Latino Giving Houston. So tonight's topic is going to be about giving and receiving in the Latino community, and this is very relevant, especially now during the holiday season, because it talks about the importance of contributing. And I guess we'll start with you, Ray. Tell us more about C60 Inc.
Well, C60 Inc. is the nonprofit, the 501c3, that partners with LULAC Council 60. And so Council 60 is the advocacy side of working in the Latino community, and then C60 is the group that is out there raising the funds to do the restoration of the historic LULAC clubhouse. It's located on Bagby Street. So through LULAC, we formed this 501c3, and we've been out actively working in our community as well as, trying to reach out across, I guess the country to look for grants and applications. And we've been very fortunate because we were able to partner with Lori Hernandez and her group, who is, now our consultants. Mm-hmm. And so, it's been, at first I thought I knew a lot about, raising funds, but it's a challenging field to be in. Mm-hmm. And as we get into this discussion with Mario and with Lori, you'll hear some of the bumps that we run into along this road.
Mm-hmm. And that'll bring me to, I guess, with Lori. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
So, as Ray mentioned, I'm a capital campaign consultant. Many people have probably never heard of that, but basically what that means is we help organizations like C60 and other nonprofits grow their mission. And many nonprofits reach a point in growth where they're ready to build larger facilities. Mm-hmm. And so that's many times they'll hire a capital campaign consultant to help guide them through the process. And so that's what we do. We get to have a lot of fun helping people like Ray, make a big difference in our city.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. And with Mario too, with Latino Giving Houston, tell us about that organization.
Sure. So we started back in 2009 when we thought about how can we make giving a part of who we are. A lot of us are first generation students, right? And we're like, okay, we have this disposable income now. What can we do with that? And we said we need a space, we need a hub where folks can learn how to make giving a part of who we are as the biggest demographic group here in this city, county, and state, right? So since then, we've given over 100,000 in small grants that average about 7,000 per year, right? But there are no restrictions to that. So, if you're a starter non-profit with a budget below $5 million per year, we are an org that wants to know who you are, the work that you do, and our members vote on who gets our grant, right? So this is a great space for folks to come and learn the power of giving and also learn what great orgs are out there. And if you serve on our grants committee, you get to see every single application that comes in. So you get to learn about what a strong application looks like and what a not so strong application looks
Right.
like. So it's those kinds of things, Ray, that again you pick up on.
Yeah, and we with LULAC Council 60, we're part of a large organization that's nationwide.
Right.
But at the heart of what LULAC does is education. So since the beginning, back in 1929, we've been focused on scholarship because we at that time and till today is we believe that education is the great equalizer. So I can't even begin to figure out how many millions and millions of dollars we've given out in scholarships. But we approach it in the same way that you do, in that it's a great first place to learn about giving because we're a service organization and we let our members know that we're community facing and that we're here to help where we can. And scholarships is one of the best places to start because as you get these young people who are starting their college career or already in college and need funding to keep going, they become interested in your organization. They become invested. They find out who you are. And we find that a lot of these students will return to the organization later. And, it's amazing who walks through the door and will say, I was, such and such school and LULAC gave me my first scholarship.
Absolutely.
And because of that, I was able to go and do this and this. So, what you're talking about, it's high impact.
And I'm glad you brought up scholarships because we are a fund that is held at the Greater Houston Community Foundation, and being a member with us, you get access to everything that they do there. We've had our members sit on their scholarship boards and review everything. And we do have students that receive the Greater Houston Community Foundation scholarship that do come back and join us.
And that's rewarding. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's a great day when you run into someone that you helped years ago and they're coming back and they want to contribute. And whether that's just in labor or hopefully some funding,
Yeah.
it's a good feeling.
And it's tremendous to know that your organization exists because we need to grow philanthropy among Latinos, and it is more sophisticated than just writing a check. So I think that what you're talking about, that education that your members get about the process is phenomenal, but you're also growing, that donor base for Houston.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, but we haven't talked about your organization,
Yeah.
right? Because
Houston Media Source.
Houston Media Source,
Yeah.
and you're right smack dab in the middle of the community.
Yeah.
So and you're and because you are, the type of entity you are, you're also having to raise funds. And so, are you funded through national foundations? Are you local in terms of your fundraising?
Yeah. So really, historically, when we started in 1986 and aired for the first time May 31st, 1987 on TV, a lot of what people pay for like their cable every month, a portion of that goes to like the PEG channel. So PEG is, P, we're P, public, E is education, and G is government. So that is how people are able to create their programs here in Houston Media Source and really provide a voice to all communities, really. So that's one big advantage of having a public access station is that you don't have any restrictions. So that's really nice. And especially with a show like this, you're able to provide all of this useful information for communities out there that might not know where to turn to or even know about a lot of these philanthropic opportunities too.
And so let me ask this.
Sure.
So now that you have large numbers of folks cutting the cord, does that affect that stream of income at all? Or?
Yeah, I think if anything, it makes us more creative. We just have to find other creative ways to sustain ourselves. But I think the one big key thing for us is to continue to provide everyone representation. And I've had actually a lot of people tell me throughout the years, especially producers that are here not just creating their programs, but they have friends that visit from abroad and they say, we don't have this type of structure, public access programming in X country. So it's really interesting that you have this here. And what a resource. And so this is something that has sustained us for so long too, and why we're here still in 2024 entering 2025.
Absolutely.
Which is awesome. All right?
Absolutely.
It gives us the opportunity to come out and talk about these stories.
Absolutely.
And so, you both touched on how, there is a space out there where folks learn how to give, right? And Ray, you spoke about how you thought you understood how things, worked. And of course, there's a lot more to it than just, asking folks to write a check. I mean, so, me, I often think about how, we all know each other, or we know a lot of these same people. But within our community, there's a huge numbers of people out there that don't know, great orgs like ours, right?
Right.
So, I mean, how do we create those doors that we can get new folks in?
That's a really, really good question. And the key to a successful campaign is creating relationships with existing donors, but also going out and finding new donors. And that's called fundraising. That's what you do before you ask for $1, before you ask for a gift of any size. Whether it's a major gift or a smaller gift, you meet people, and you do that through a process we call, in fundraising terminology, cultivation. But how a group, let's just say a nonprofit, is going to start out with some fundraising goal of any sort. It could be for operating or for capital. You really want to just lean on your board, because nonprofits are board-led, and then you want to help that board. If you're doing a capital campaign or a special campaign, you want to raise additional volunteers to supplement the board, and you just work together. You work together to talk to the community and go out and tell the story of your project and your mission. And it's not a fast process. It takes time to build those relationships and to steward them very well. And but that's typically the process. And of course, Ray, I know C60 has done other things that have really moved the needle with media and different campaigns when you first started.
Right.
I think you also had crowdfunding. So there are other things like that. But once you get into a capital campaign, it's a really structured process involving the board, involving committees, and just going out
Right.
and talking to the community.
And part of our challenge, and the reason that we're engaged with, capital campaigns, is that, you have to use different types of vehicles in your fundraising efforts, right? You just can't depend on one particular source, like you said, source. What was it? Crowdfunding.
Right. I think in the
So
initial
we
stages.
did the GoFundMe
Right.
page, and we didn't grab huge dollars, but we were able to pay our tax bill, which was what we needed at the time, right? So, but now we use a lot of different strategies, in our giving.
Right, and one of the models that we really champion at our firm is a mix of funding, which is different from a lot of other organizations that might rely on individual giving. We mix federal, state, city, county, foundations, corporations, and individuals. So we encompass the full range of sources that are available to nonprofits,
Right.
and we've been very successful. Do you want to talk about some of the?
Well, I want to talk about, how I thought I knew what was going on, right? And once we were engaged, they started, providing us with information in terms of, have you thought about possibly putting together a workshop with your board to talk about, what your mission is, what your vision is? How do these two go together? How do you apply them as you go out and try to raise funds to reach your goals? And what are your goals? Specifically, have you divided these into smaller portions so that if someone does want to contribute but they don't want to give a huge amount, they could contribute to a specific piece of it. So, these were strategies that we really hadn't considered. We knew what we wanted, but we just didn't really have a clear pathway to it. And that's what working with Lori did, is to help us to be able to figure this out. But that she didn't start force feeding us. I mean, she brought us along slowly so that as a board we developed, and that was important, because you have to have, your board has to develop that sophistication as it grows.
And I think, Lori, you hit the nail on the head. Communication is key, is basically what we're talking about, because cultivating and building relationships is all about communication. And it's really not something you can do overnight, especially with our communities too, Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, because a lot of it, people think and have this misconception that if they speak Spanish, assuming that we all speak Spanish, that's how they're going to reach us. But really, it's something that they have to develop through time, and it's not something instantaneous. They have to really talk to us directly and ask us what we need before we can actually tell them.
And on that note, right, like part of our application is that you need to serve at least 50% of the people need to be Latino, right? Now, in the old days, that might mean, okay, you're in the East End or you're in the North Side, right? But now you could be anywhere and do that. You could be in Katy, you could be in Cyprus, right? Pasadena, of course, right? So to your point, the idea of what is a Latino serving org, it's not just these, parts of town or these certain things anymore. No, again, most of the students in Texas public schools are Latino. So, you can feel strongly about anything and still learn how to give.
And those targets move.
Right.
It's like, there was a time when no one ever thought about Hispanic serving organizations.
Right.
And now universities and colleges want to be Hispanic serving organizations because there's funding available both through the government and foundations to address, you know, those institutions.
UHD.
And
Yeah.
exactly, and it'll shift because at some point these groups say, well, you know, we've made an impact in this area, now we need to focus our attention over here. And so organizations have to adapt, you know, to be able to address, you know, the needs of these giving organizations as well as their constituents.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and earlier, Mario, you were talking about now people having more disposable income. I already know the answer to the question I'm about to ask you, so where do you think all that attributes from?
Well, I mean, it just comes out of the fact that a lot of us, you know, the idea here is that, you know, now that, you know, some of us are college educated or we've started a business of our own, or, you know, we are here because someone came here to give us a better chance, right? And guess what? We've got that. But, you know, we do spend a lot of our disposable income on things that we honestly don't think about, right? How many of us have a streaming subscription that we hardly ever use at all, right? That could be going towards a local cause, a local foundation, right? And so we need to really think long and hard about how can we claim the power in our numbers, and again, that's just not through voting, but it can be through where we spend our money and where we give our money.
It's powerful.
And some of the conversations that we've had is around wealth.
Right.
And, you know, there is wealth, and you know, it doesn't have to be immense wealth, right? But there is wealth out there. And one of the things that you don't learn in high school, or, you know, is how to preserve, you know, that money, and how to be able to take advantage of, you know, giving, because, you know, I'm sure you're aware, you know, everything you donate comes right off your bottom line, you know, on your taxes. So you can recover a portion of that. So as you build wealth, you can develop strategies around giving.
Well, and to that note, Ray, I mean, we are trained to be consumers, right?
Yeah.
We are trained to seek value in, you know, how big our house is, or how our clothes look, or how new our car is, or whatever, right? But we need to learn, again, how to build wealth, not only for us, our families too, but also in our communities.
Correct.
On that note, I have a stat here that states that $1 in the Latino community only stays within our community for 6 days. For 6 days, and then it goes someplace else. We are the biggest, you know, demographic group here, and I always try to do business with people that I know, right? Because I'm thinking about, okay, I could give it to someone that I don't know, or I could give it to this couple that I know they do good. I know that they're not going to cheat me, and I know they send their kids to school with the business that I give them, right? So I can see where that goes. And we need to think about that in terms of everything, in everything. Because again, we have so much talent, we have so much passion here. We just need to learn to work together.
Right.
Yeah.
No. You see that too?
Absolutely. Well, and what you mentioned is so true. In fundraising, people give to people. So these connections, these networks, that's what makes a successful campaign. And I'm really blown away that your organization exists, because what you're doing now is going to pay off in perpetuity for the city. In community development, in growing this culture of philanthropy. Just wait a few years down. I mean, I know you're having impact already, but this is going to strengthen our Latino community for generations.
Thank you, thank you. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we were founded by Frances Valdez, who is the daughter of Alice Valdez, who is the founder of Mecca, right? So those of us that know Mecca and know that Dow School there, which is the oldest still standing HISD school in the heart of Sixth Ward there. That's the school that my granddad went to, right? So, you know, Francis and Clarissa Valdez grew up seeing their mom build Mecca from the ground up. Started it in the back of St. Joseph's Catholic Church there, and they were able to move into the Dow School. And I shared that just to state that we understand what it means to build something from the ground up.
Yeah.
And if you look at all of our family history, and if you look at our community, hey, we know how to build. We know how to build from the ground up. When folks might have stated, I don't know if they can pull that off. Well, guess what? We can, and we do. And to your point, we just need to learn how to, again, support each other.
Right. And that's sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
Because I've got a lot of friends that are in nonprofits that are out there, you know, also raising funds. And a lot of times we'll get together and we'll be, you know, bidding for the same grant, submitting applications at the same time for the exact same funding. And, you know,
Yeah.
you don't want to sit there and chat them up, right? Because they don't want to disclose, you know, what their strategies are. And I guess sometimes, you know, you just run up against that. But you want to be encouraging, and you want to be supportive.
And
Right.
Ray, to that, I'll say that I really believe, and because I've seen it, that there is an abundance of philanthropy and dollars for any cause in our city, truly worthwhile and worth doing. Donors step up over and over. But I do think that once more organizations know how to do the work, and, you know, and some just maybe will need to invest more in their development teams. But I believe that there is abundance.
Yeah.
So if there's multiple organizations, there is though it's competitive, I think there's plenty for everyone.
Right.
Is-
Well, in the learning curve, I mean, we just put in this application recently, and we thought it'd be a good fit, but we had to do a lot of research. I mean, you were able to schedule a lot of meetings with a lot of different contractors in this field, so we were able to get a lot of knowledge back because of those conversations. And it helped us, I think it helped us in our application because we were able to transfer that into that narrative, right? To
That's
kind of tailor to what they're asking.
Yeah.
And
I think the fundraising process itself really strengthens an organization, especially a capital campaign, because you have to hone in everything about the organization. How you tell your mission, how you tell that story very succinctly, and then just having the strategy behind everything. It's more, there's more strategy and more, this from reviewing grants and just, your process. But organizations have to be grant ready. And that's what we like to do straight up is get you in the best shape possible to start going before donors and just have all those key pieces in place. But we had a really good time on this last grant. It was for the IMLS for a Latino Museum grant. So we got to go on a big learning journey with the board and just interview different cultural consultants and exhibition design teams, and it was so exciting to see the story and the planning and the future that's going to be, the future exhibitions that are going to be created out of that.
And you're involved in cultural arts. I know that you're a huge art fan.
Absolutely. Well, because art and culture are how we claim our corner of where we are, and that's the thing is like now we don't need to stay in our corner at all, right? I mean, we need to be what people think of when they think of the most diverse city in the U.S. That's us, right?
Oh, yeah.
But if you go, elsewhere and say, hey, I'm from Houston, oftentimes you might hear, do you all, ride horses down there? Is there a oil well in your backyard or whatever, right? And hey, nothing against folks that ride horses.
I always say yes to all of that.
Nothing against, right? But again, we need to be able to shape the town that we live in. And you know what? Let me touch back on the fact that, every time that an org applies for a grant, it's a chance for them to learn and grow, right?
Oh, absolutely.
With us, since we're kind of like a starter, right? Grant. So we ask, like, hey, do you have a guide star, right? Some newer non-profits don't. Does 100% of your board give, right? Some newer non-profits, no, their board doesn't. And so we help them think about those things and state, okay, if this guy's on our board and if he's not giving, then why is he on our board, right?
Well,
so,
we approach that way with that same question, but we see that in our board recruiting is what kind of in-kind service can we receive from our board member? Because sometimes what they bring to the table is much more valuable than that $100 check they might write you at the end of the year, right? And we've exercised that in the past because sometimes organizations just need something, and you lean into the expertise that you already have available, and that's proven to be very valuable to us. So yeah, when you ask the question, does your board give? Absolutely.
And that brings me to something you mentioned that's very interesting. So you say you help organizations get grant ready. How does that process start?
Well, usually, depending on the level of growth of the organization, they might be starting out, they might be at some level of maturity. So when they come to us, we take a look, we do an assessment of, where they are, what documentation that they have in place. Nonprofits have to have a 501c3, they have to have other board, the board has to be in order, formation documents, 990s, and so all of that we assess and we make sure it's all in shape. If there's something missing, then we help them to to be ready. Another big document that we get them ready with is the case for support. That's basically telling a donor why you exist and why your work matters. So that's another big thing that we helped the LULAC or the C60 project to develop. But beyond that, Ray, I'm trying to just
No,
recall.
but the board has to trust in the process, and it's also a lot of times when you're just forming up as a group, people, like you said, you bring all these people with this different type of expertise, and you think you already know the path, you've got your talent, and you should be able to do this. But it's amazing the things you don't know, but you don't know that you don't know them, right? So we've been very fortunate because you have held our hand through the process, and we still have pieces that we're putting together. It's just the other day we were talking, we needed a .gov account, right? In order to be able to apply for certain grants. So that's a process in itself. And so, once we got over that, then we need, what's my next big need now? I have to have these expense reports, right? That have been, they go, who are we looking at?
Are you thinking about the, once a nonprofit reaches a certain level of financial growth, so if you have a federal grant that maybe it's over 500,000 or 750, there's a threshold by which an organization has now a different level of oversight, and so those are other documentation.
Yeah, it's the independent auditor.
Yes.
That has to come in to review your books, and the government and other granting agencies will ask for that. Have you had one in the last 2 years, right? And if you haven't, your application doesn't make the cut.
And I think you might have been also referring to, so when we do city or federal grants, in facilities grants or public facility grants, a lot of times there are documents that you have to have, like a phase 1 environmental or a survey and that sort of thing. So those are other documents that you just have to have, and those are all things that you don't always expect when you launch a campaign and want to start raising money, and start that. You all were very good that you owned the land and you had the site, and that was all done, but we get groups sometimes that are starting from from scratch.
If it had been a gas station, we'd been in trouble.
That's right.
And on that, we get artists, we get great people that say, man, I have this idea of this and this and this and this, right? And folks think that it's easy. But, there's a lot of things that you need to know, that you need to do. And like you stated, Ray, you don't know what you don't know, right? And on that, too, I mean, we've had people that have come in and stated, I want to do arts that is about this and this and this. And then there's a person right over there that says, hey, I'm starting a non-profit too that does the exact same thing. And we are so big as a community now that we might not know that there are 2 different orgs starting up that want to do the exact same thing. So it's best that they know who each
Oh, yeah.
other are, so that they can say, hey, does it make more
Right.
sense for us to work together and not compete?
And more recently, you know, I'm sure you're aware of this, is we had Dia de los Muertos in the East End, and then we had Dia de los Muertos from a bigger group from outside of Houston who came in and wanted to do one in Houston. And of course, there was a little pushback, you know, from the community group, but they were able to sit down and work through, you know, how to actually make it work for both of them, right?
Right.
And so now both of them operate and both of them having a good time. And so, you know,
Mecca, you know, started their festival, you know, decades ago, right? So it's great that, again, talking about arts,
Yes.
culture, right? That we are now starting to grow,
Right.
and it's important that we maintain those historical hubs like the
Yes.
C60 building, Mecca, Dow School,
And
all of these
And,
other
and
things
it's
as
interesting
well.
because we just had this come up today. And we were talking, you know, with this individual, and we're telling our story, our history. We have 90 years of history to talk about. And it always comes to that point to where they say, this is fantastic that you're working on restoring this, but where are you going? What does the future look like? And that is a lot of what's being asked by a lot of the different foundations and the people that are doing grants right now. It's like, what does your future look like? And when we talk about the demographics in Houston, right? And we say, well, we're the biggest, most diverse, and we have discretionary spending. Well, that doesn't mean that that discretionary spending is going to come to you unless you have something they can attach to, something, you know, that's
Ray,
tangible for them.
let me throw this out there, right?
Uh-oh.
So yes, we are the biggest group out there, and yes, you know, like, you know, there are things out there about our culture that are really hot right now, but it's important that at a time when a lot of folks see us as newcomers, that we have buildings, spaces that we can point to and state, look, this C60 building was here for X number of years. There's so much history in these walls, because we need to always make the point that we've always been a part of this town. We are a part of it now, and we will be a huge part in the
Right.
future as well.
And one of the things that really kind of gets me going is that I live off this history. You know, I see myself,
Absolutely.
you know, inside of this, and I see my family, you know, because of LULAC, you know, the struggles, and they've been helped through the organization by their efforts in so many different areas, in education and healthcare and housing and things of that sort, right? So the community has a lot of need, but they also have so much potential to be able to solve a lot of these issues if we can just, you know, get them moving all in the right direction, right?
And see, Ray, I think you hit on a big thing here, right? Because as you're talking, you know, I think of a granddad that I know that, you know, he shed a tear one day because he grew up in the valley and had to go through a lot of stuff that he had to overcome there because of discrimination, right? And he shed a tear over the fact that his grandkids were having to fight the same fights that he did, right? But how do we counteract that? Is that we need to build our institutions institutions now and keep those that exist going, so that we're not always having to start over.
Right, and
Right.
institutional, intelligence,
Exactly.
right? And to be able to maintain that, across time. And it's hard because it's easy to forget, what the bad times look like when you're living through the good times.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you talking about that really makes me think the importance of documentation, and then also archiving too, because if you don't archive and document all this information and things that are happening, then history does repeat itself.
Right.
So as far as like getting involved with these great organizations, how can people get involved? How can they find out more?
Yeah, and that programs like this. And,
Yeah.
obviously we're pushing the message out. They can reach out to us, and I think that our information is made public. Because I just had a young lady who reached out to me that relocated from, I think it was Brownsville, and so she's like, I asked her, how did you find me? She said, well, I went on LinkedIn, and you were the only one that had a phone number on your
Wow.
profile, so I called you, and I said, okay, that's great, but I mean, you have to make yourself available. And being that we're in the community all the time, we get a little, scared sometimes that if we have too much information out there, we can become targets. But, I mean, that's the whole thing is, you have to take some risk in order to advance.
Well, with us, people can go to LatinoGivingHouston.org and get more info there. Learn about our monthly mixers there, and learn about how for the cost of one fast food combo meal, you can become a monthly giver and become a part of this larger community, because we all have more power than we know, right? And yes, I might not be able to write a 6-digit check, right? But if all of us give, if all of us give, and if all of us learn more about the great orgs that are out there, we all become stronger.
Absolutely, and it's amazing because whenever someone asks me, hey, can you help with this? And if my answer is no, I said, but I know someone who can, and I will direct them to other places, and because that's what we're supposed to do is to be able to help our community and to make them aware of the opportunities that are available to them, and that's why we do the work that we do. And you can get a hold of us at LULAC.org. Because we're in 38 states, and if you want to join and you want to serve, all you have to do is send an email and they'll connect you to a local council. And what we do is we invite you to come to a meeting, and because we want you to experience the dynamics of the organization, because every council is different, the issues they address are different, but the mission is the same. It's to provide service to the community.
Absolutely. And how about for you, Lori?
I currently don't have a website. a lot of our work is through word of mouth, but I'm happy to leave my information, and it can be made public later. You can also contact me through Ray.
Oh,
Yes, and also just wanted to say that the Latino community really does have immense talent and immense treasure, monetarily and just through their connections. So, and there's so much happiness in giving. All of this is just so rewarding. As an individual, you're giving either your time, as Ray mentioned, or your talent, or your dollars. It is just physically rewarding to give. So I know it's the giving season, and so I just look forward to all the good that's going to happen, come January.
And people are genuinely wanting to help you. They just need to find a way to get there. And that's a lot of what we do is to be able to facilitate that journey for them.
Right.
in that fundraising process. But I had to learn that from Lori, because like I said, I thought I already knew what it was, but
Absolutely. And that's the thing is that everybody has so much more that they can learn, grow on, right? I mean, everyone at this table, right? We're very capable, right? But think back, and there was a time when we probably thought, can I do that? Can I pull that off, right? And me, I always tell people, look, if I can do this, you can too, right? If you have any ideas about how can I help this community, or who is a great artist to talk to about this, or how can I learn about TV production, right? There are great orgs here that can open up those doors.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
that's it.
Yeah, and I just want to thank all our guests tonight. You're watching Public Affairs, Public Access with C60 Inc. here at Houston Media Source. I'm Roger Palomino, and I want to thank Ray Valdez, Lori Hernandez, and Mario Salinas for joining us tonight. And thank you for watching. We'll see you guys next time. you.